But one of the things that worries me also, and that I would like to enhance and see how we could fix it in a certain way, is that, for example, there are no airlines from India that go
Yeah,
to.
I was just going to ask you that.
And that is an issue that it really it's a problem because we need to have more connection between our areas. That would benefit very much the possibilities of doing more contacts and exchanges together, because I think the Indians are starting to travel.
Welcome to Strat News Global. I'm Huma Siddiqui and I'm in conversation with Ambassador Alberto Guañi of Uruguay. Welcome, Ambassador. Today we are going to sit and discuss about our bilateral relations between the two countries, as well as our Prime Minister meeting with your President recently. Let's start with you telling us something about India and your country, the relations between the two countries.
Well, thank you, Huma, for this interview. I have, there's a long story between Uruguay and India of almost 76 years,
Okay.
where we have established relations. And there is a very good amount of time in which we have also recognized that the two countries basically look very in the same way in different problems. That means that, for example, we are supporters of multilateralism. At the same time, Uruguay backs up the aspirations of India of becoming a member of the Security Council of the United Nations. And we are also strong against, practices that have been very sad and that we condemned, like terrorism. Like what happened in India has been something that has really made us sad, and my president has also expressed that to Prime Minister Modi, and we are sure that we are standing against that kind of procedures. We do not agree. At the same time, we are democracies, and India is the biggest democracy in the world, the largest by numbers, and at the same time, we are like one of the oldest because we have had democracy for a long time. And so we share ideas, we share values, even though we are 15,000 kilometers away from each other. But we have same view in many issues.
So recently, my Prime Minister, during his visit, met with your President. Could you tell us more about what really was discussed?
Sure.
And how important is it for building the relations between the two countries?
It is very important because it was the first time a president of Uruguay and a prime minister of India got together in the recent times. We just had a long time ago, in 1968, the visit of Indira Gandhi to Uruguay, and since then there has been no more contact.
Oh.
So my president also says that it is important that we push the accelerator in the relationship with India, because we are, of course, seeing that now India is practically getting to be the third economy in the world. It has a very important presence in what has to do with the Global South. And we are also members of the Global South. We also think that we need to expand our relationship. Prime Minister Modi announced that India is going to open an embassy in Uruguay, which we welcome very much, because we think that that's going to be a way to make projects and our work much more efficient, because me from this side and you acting in Uruguay is going to help a lot to improve our friendship. So I'm sure also since almost 23 years we have an India presence in Uruguay by Tata Consulting,
Okay.
which is a very important IT company that now is practically the one that employs more people in Uruguay. They have almost 2,000 Uruguayans and 1,000 Indians. And we think this has been a very useful way of promoting the culture of India, seeing also how it is possible to engage in important investments in Uruguay, which we also would like to expand to other activities. There has been also an investment by an Indian company in what has to do with slaughterhouse, for example, that deal with selling meat, but not especially to India. And we think that also other IT companies like Infogain have settled themselves in Uruguay, and we are looking up that others that have to do with agriculture would probably expand themselves there. But at the same time, we have a Uruguayan company established here in Noida, and they are doing and they're constructing boilers, which is something very important to make biofuel in the order to take those leaves that are burned and create in a certain way pollution, take them away and create that and new energy. And I think that's going to help a lot for India to overcome the situation.
So
of
it's a
pollution.
company from Uruguay, or
Yes, it's a company that really, the beginning was a company from Denmark,
okay,
and this Uruguayan businessman bought the company, and they expanded to almost all Europe, and now they are practically doing business here in India, which is very good. They have a union of people from India and also from Uruguay, and the managers are shared between the two countries. And they have been doing all these projects and these new presentations of them since practically 5 years. So I'm very happy that we can count on them, and at the same time that we can contribute to this emergency that India has in pollution.
so this gets me to another important question. India and Mercosur group has been talking about expanding the preferential trade agreement, and there have been problems and it is getting delayed. So what do you think, how can this be resolved, especially after Prime Minister has met with your leader as well as President Lula of Brazil, which is holding the presidency, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. So what do you think, how can this be resolved?
Well, I think Prime Minister Modi has had contact with practically all members except Uruguay and Paraguay, because he has been recently in contact with President Milei of Argentina, and he has also been in contact with President Lula of Brazil. I think that is a great position to make it possible for the agreement to expand, because I see there is a difference. For example, India does not impose the agreement of specific Mercosur countries in order to deal and do, for example, free trade agreements. And that is something that is very beneficial for Uruguay, because Uruguay is also trying to expand itself, especially in this part of Asia, where we think that if we had better conditions of accessing this market, we would probably have more things to offer and much more business to do with India. And that's one of the issues that really worries my president. We would like to expand in that. We want to see the possibilities of enabling companies from India to make business, especially because Uruguay wants to position itself as a hub for India. The same thing happened with TCS, where it started there and it expanded to the rest of South America.
True.
And Uruguay wants to make it possible to use its free port and its free airport, besides almost 14 different economic zones that we have to offer. So there is a great possibility of giving a special treatment to these companies, and at the same time facilitate them the expansion and the possibility of moving around the continent. We have excellent roads, we have a great transportation system, and we are very close from each other, like almost 2 hours flight from Montevideo to Sao Paulo, 2 hours and a half to Rio de Janeiro, and Buenos Aires is practically
Just
half an hour.
Yeah.
So there is a great geopolitical positioning of Uruguay, which we want India also to explore it a little bit more. and at the same time go along with the intention of the Prime Minister of getting a better, closer relationship with South America. Uruguay stands very strong in that as an interesting offer for India, and we think that our mission here is also to make it possible. We have tried now a mission from India going to Uruguay for seeing how the railways work. There is a good chance that we could buy products from India in that sense because they are much cheaper than China and even Japan. So there is also an interesting company that is from India that wants to do business in the construction field and infrastructure. But we know that we can accelerate our links also with pharmaceuticals and more IT, and at the same time with startups and even artificial intelligence. Few people know that Uruguay also produces drones, we produce satellites, and we produce robots. So in all that field, with a collaboration that has to do with, for example, space technology, and at the same time what we could do together in the Antarctic, are new areas that we could explore to do things together. I have been intensifying the possibility of establishing a memorandum of understanding with India to produce together audiovisual. That is very important because India has a great film producing ability, and the one from Bollywood, and of course that could enable Indian productions to go into the South America, and at the same time make it possible for agreements to do things together. It is much cheaper to film in Uruguay than in other parts of the world. That's why we can offer that as a possibility of giving incentives also, and giving the possibilities of doing those.
So what kind of incentives would you offer a Bollywood producer who would like to go and do some
especially the capability of offering, for example, scenarios that are very similar to Europe and that are very similar in the use also of extras for the productions, and at the same time give them special facilities in order to exempt them from taxes.
Okay.
And those are mainly the main attractions that we can give, and as giving them a possibility of producing in a convenient scenario, which would enable Indian productions to expand to the rest of the world and even to South America.
So, based on what you have just said, you're talking about your country also building drones and artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. So, how do you think that India and Uruguay can cooperate in this sector? Because India has a lot of companies which are into drone production, and would you like at some stage to do some kind of a joint venture? That is my one question. And my second is, when you talk about artificial intelligence, how can the two sides work together?
Well, there is a project that the Uruguayan government is really promoting that has to do with the intelligence use of artificial intelligence. That means that there is a rationality of possibilities of using in a very, I would say, with a human touch, this technology that looks to be a little bit, uncomfortable and sometimes not well understood. So we want to work more in understanding the artificial intelligence. We know that this world is practically evolving towards that, and it's going to be something that is going to be so common that no country will be practically evading this responsibility. And in that sense, we find that India could be a great partner because you're in the same line, and we could also offer, for example, the possibilities that have to do with the expansion of software. That is, Uruguay, for example, has the one computer per child that is an invention of Negroponte, who created this, let's say, way of usage of computers by children from a beginning start. And that is something that we could, for example, work together with India in the teaching of Spanish. We have done an arrangement with the British Council, and they designed a special course for Uruguay to teach English. And that has worked very well, because now Uruguay is practically one of the countries that knows better English in the region. And the way to teach it was very effective. So we can apply the same concept towards Spanish in India. Could also help, starting from school. And it would be something that I'm sure it would even make India have a better positioning in all this part of the world. So there are many possibilities of mixing this new technology with culture, and expanding the possibilities also to enhance people-to-people relationship. But one of the things that worries me also, and that I would like to enhance and see how we could fix it in a certain way, is that, for example, there are no airlines from India that go to...
I was just going to ask you that.
And that is an issue that it's a problem, because we need to have more connection between our areas. That would benefit very much the possibilities of doing more contacts and exchanges together, because I think the Indians are starting to travel. So it's
they're traveling, and they're traveling to far off areas. They are not stuck only to South Asia. But
they want to discover more areas, and we want to give them the possibilities also to come to our countries. We need to practice certain measures in order to facilitate that. Because, for example, now if you want to travel to Uruguay, or you want to travel to Argentina, to Brazil, any of our countries, you need to make the procedure for different embassies to get visas.
Yes.
And I think we should facilitate that. We should have a system like the Schengen, where you go in. For the rest of the other countries, it's one entrance only. And that would be something that, would speed up and make our touristic relationship much better, more fluent.
But do you think that's possible, considering that a lot of countries in the region have, issues with each other when it comes to this kind of a visa?
I know, mainly because there is a misconcept also with what has to do with the movement of people, and especially of countries that have a large quantity of population, like India and Bangladesh, and maybe Nepal too. There are countries that sometimes, the people that misuse these kind of facilities take profit from, and they sort of make human trafficking, which is something that unfortunately has been spread up a lot, and that we need to control.
True.
That's why there is a sort of, preconception from our authorities in order to reach those kind of agreements. But I think it's something we have to find a way out. It's not a difficulty that can be, simply not addressed. We need to find ways to create mechanisms in order to avoid that human trafficking, and at the same time allow, let's say, healthy tourism to flourish. And by that, I go back to the same thing. Connectivity is very important. For example, before the pandemic, there was a connection between Delhi and Madrid from Air India and Iberia. When I was in Mumbai 2 years ago, I talked to the people of Tata, and they were starting just to overtake the company, and they told me that once they would have more planes, they would start focusing on the possibility of reconnecting, in that case, Delhi to Madrid. Because from Madrid, most of our airlines directly connect.
Yes.
So it would be a great thing to do, and it would facilitate the connectivity between the regions.
So, just to wrap up, I have two questions. One is related to you. You are saying that in the for the railways, you would like to buy products from India. So, would that mean you want to buy locomotives or you want to buy something else? And my last question would be: you talked about space, and what is it that you would like to do with my space agency, that is the Indian Space Research Organization?
Well, first, and what has to do with trains, there is specific need because we have abandoned in a certain way the transport by rail. That is something that we want to recapture. For example, fast trains to connect the capital city with the main city that needs to have a better system of transportation. At the same time, we think that the wagons for transporting people are important. Mainly, we have the locomotives, but we would need to enlarge the capacity of dealing again with passengers. So we would concentrate practically on that. But at the same time, we would see if we could also create together a system to deal with fast trains. And maybe that is possible. That is something that we need to put our people to work. And it's something that I think India has the capacity to do that. On the other side, and what has to do specifically with the new technologies, and especially to take care of space projects, we find that, for example, India does not have a place to launch from the southern part of the world. We could facilitate that, and at the same time, we could provide what we have managed to evolve in that sense. Like capacity to explore other planets and all of that we have found through our engineers to be possible. So, and all that also transferred to the possibilities of seeing the Antarctic as a way that is, we know you cannot exploit the Antarctic, but we have had a very interesting, let's say, explorations. You cannot exploit, but you can explore, which is different. So, for example, there is a Uruguayan researcher that found a very interesting discovery about krill, that is what practically whales eat. And it's a very good ingredient to slow down problems with the, let's say, evolving of brain damages and all these issues that could deteriorate the intellectual capacity. So that is an interesting area in which we could share those different, discoveries, I would say, and that are also interesting to see how to exploit them in a manner that could be done together. We could also facilitate India sharing our bases. We have 2 bases in the Antarctic,
Yes.
and that could also be something to do and plan for the future.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.